We've got 53 subscribers, Yvonne, on our YouTube channel.
We just keep growing.
/Hungover Gaming.
Thank God for your Switch video.
That video has 1,400 views. And I'm not stopping there, Bon, because this podcast is called the Hungover Podcast, and this video is on youtube.com/hungovergaming, where you can subscribe and listen to this podcast every single Monday. Or maybe you can go over to iTunes, SoundCloud, or Google Play, where you can listen to the audio version every single Monday at 9 a.m. Don't forget, you can be part of the conversation live on Sundays at twitch.tv/jujubesgood. And, tell us what you think about our conversation to our faces. There's no internet anonymity there other than it's 100% internet anonymity because it's text chat. I don't know what I'm talking about. But I do know that I love this podcast a lot, and I hope you guys love it too, and show your appreciation for the podcast by giving us an iTunes review, because it really helps with our visibility. And if you want our YouTube channel to grow past 53 subscribers, then maybe you should go ahead and do one of those iTunes reviews for us. But Yvonne, enough about that nonsense, because we start our podcast out every single week by asking each other, what media have you been consuming, and what have you been up to this week? What have you been drinking? It's the Hungover Podcast.
I have enjoyed many beverages. As we know, this past week was Thanksgiving.
Yes, it was.
In America, the US of A.
The old greatest A.
So I have had...
of the world.
I've had many beverages this week. I enjoyed many different things. I guess the best beverages I had was this year on Thanksgiving, my entire family signed up and did the Buffalo Turkey Trot. The Buffalo Turkey Trot,
Don't know what that
longest consecutive race in the history of the world. It's 123 years in a row.
What?
And it's
Wait, what? Longest race in the world?
The longest consecutive run race in the world. So
what does that mean?
123 years in a row, Julien.
Oh, as in the amount of years it's been doing, and not just the length. I thought that's what you meant. Sorry.
No, it's an 8K, so it's not that long.
Okay.
It's 5-ish miles. It was fun. My entire family signed up. Yeah, it's the morning of. We started at 8 o'clock.
Okay, that's
8:30,
fun.
something like that.
Go home, eat a turkey.
My sister convinced the family to do it. It was my mom's first road race ever.
Nice.
Congratulations to you, Mom.
Let's go, Mom. Thanks for listening to the podcast.
Good job, Nina. You're the best. And she did really well. She finished 8K in 53 minutes.
That's very impressive.
Which was only like 4 minutes slower than me. And like I was going to say, the best beverages I had were those 2 beers I had on the road.
Oh my God. You were drinking beer while running?
Yeah, man.
That's like our dream, We would always run to go drink beer, or drink beer before running, but we never drink beer while running. I think you finally made it to becoming a real adult, Yvonne, and also you've impressed me, and you really make me proud. I just want to.
I had a Labatt and a Coors.
Oh God! So as close to water as possible. You're like, oh.
Yeah, pretty much. And I still finished the 8K in 49 minutes.
Nice.
And I walked a bit.
You had a beer.
Yeah. No, yeah, well, those times as well, and at the beginning.
Actively dehydrating yourself while running.
Finished only like 4 minutes behind my sister and father, so
nice.
Congratulations to them. Good. They actually ran the race, and I, had a good time. So I think I won the race. But, they had a better time.
4 minutes doesn't sound like a lot, but in a race, that's an incredible amount of time. No offense, Yvonne. But
no, it's fine. I was drinking beer. I was having fun. I was also kind of sick. I was like coughing a bunch. So it was a really good time.
Look, if it hadn't been on even grounds, I think you would have beat them, Yvonne. That's all I'm
Listen,
saying.
by the time I left the convention center, I had 4 beers that morning. And I woke up
8
at
a.m.
7:30. I finished the race by 10:30, and
You were hungover
I
by
had
11.
4 beers exactly. So then we had a fantastic Thanksgiving dinner. I already described the kinds of foods that we had.
Nice.
We played a lot of board games.
Very good.
And
what a family bonding experience.
Yeah, I bought board games that
Nice.
I hope to play soon, including I hope to get not a D&D campaign, but a Star Wars Edge of the Empire campaign going soon.
Cool.
So that's like a Star Wars version of D&D, which is, of course, uses different dice and everything, but if it goes well, maybe I'll find mods for D&D that I can use for space exploration.
You know what the Nintendo Switch has in place of board games? They have virtual board games. Where, like, Settlers of Catan, virtual mode, and they
I did buy Settlers of Catan, the board game, actually.
They grouped up with a bunch of board game manufacturers to license their games on the Nintendo Switch, so I think that's a pretty cool idea. So you can bring them around everywhere you go, in a very portable fashion.
I like something about the physically tangible board game, but
Yeah.
I do also want to get a Nintendo Switch, I decided. So, by God, by March of next year, I hope to own one at the very latest.
Good idea. Good idea. You just missed out on the biggest sales. I know one of our... I'm kidding. Also, I'm not kidding. But also, one of our
but
viewers...
But I didn't see Switch sales. I only saw it for $300 on Friday.
Yeah, but that's the sale, pretty much, because it came with a free game. It's not actually that amazing of a sale. But a good friend of the show and one of our viewers, Brookworm, just purchased her own Nintendo Switch with Mario Kart bundle. So, yeah, I'll have to wreck her in Mario Kart soon. That should be fun. Maybe on stream.
Ooh. Diablo 3 Eternal Collection for
Diablo
Nintendo
3.
Aces $359. Wow, these are great deals.
Anyways,
it's not actually a deal. It's just the Switch with a game.
Yes,
for the same price as both of them individually. Thank you, Nintendo. Thanks, Nintendo.
What do you want?
In other news, I have decided that December shall be the month in which I attempt to watch as many James Bond films as I can stomach.
Because the new one's coming out.
Is it?
No, I don't think so. Why?
I like James Bond in the holidays and the winters. It's kind of like a warm feeling. It's always in like a sunny locale.
Have your bourbon.
Get to have, or my French 75.
Yeah. Nice drink.
New go-to cocktail, the French 75. Can I explain what it is?
Yeah.
Gin or cognac.
No, not on the Hungover podcast. That would be blasphemy.
I know, right? Gin or cognac, lemon juice, simple syrup.
Gin or cognac. Those are two very different alcohols.
Very different. The original one was gin, but I've heard that cognac is better.
I like cognac.
And then you fill the rest, like, equal parts to that with
brandy.
champagne.
Very cool. So it's just gin or cognac, lemon, and champagne. Very nice. Very simple.
And simple syrup.
And simple syrup, of course.
Hence, you use a brut, like a very dry champagne, so that it's not oversweet.
The best cocktails are typically the most simple ones. Not only because they're easy to make, and you can make them very easily, just when you get home, but also because there's something about simplicity in a drink that really reminds you of water. I'm kidding. That's not true. I was trying to make a joke, but I don't really do that very well. That's cool, man. I'm glad you had a good time off. You know, you were working hard, and now you're all relaxed. Look at you. You look great, man.
Thanks. I had to work this morning.
Yeah, well, what do you want? Look, you look all rejuvenated, Yvonne. I feel like you needed a break.
I feel a bit rejuvenated.
Some family time.
One day where
run.
I started drinking almost as soon as I got up.
It's like you should keep a bottle of alcohol by the door so you can grab it on your way in.
Technically, with the beer run, I had 2 days where I did that.
That's
But
awesome.
I don't count it when you run and drink beer at the same time. I really don't count that. I did want to do like the beer mile where you have to finish. Is it like you have to finish the 6-pack before you finish a mile?
Dude, that's tough. Because you can finish a mile in under 10 minutes. Why would you do that? Why would you do that?
Or it's like after you do every lap, you have to finish a beer.
Oh, so each lap is just progressively worse. First lap, you're starting out strong. Got your good time on the 400, and then it's shit after that.
Listen, Julian, it would be shit for me on every 400. So let's hear about what your Thanksgiving week was like. The people must know.
I got pretty drunk on Thanksgiving. You know, things went down. Family time was great, and then my dad left, and then my mom opened up 2 bottles of wine at the same time, and then that's how it started. She opened one, put it down, didn't pour a glass, and then we like started cleaning up, and then she forgot about it, and then she opened up another one. So we had 2 open bottles that were not drank until my girlfriend Nikki and I sat down with her after helping clean up and things, just to have the family talk. It was nice. So we all got really drunk, and emotions flow with wine, as we said last week, and that's what happened. After that, went home. It was fun. Nikki went to sleep. I got home at like 9 p.m. blasted. So I was like, okay, gonna play some video games now. And I watched Brookworm stream for a while. She was streaming Hearthstone, I think, and then I was like, all right, I think it's time to go to sleep. I went to sleep.
She was streaming on Thanksgiving?
Yeah, I know. I was pleasantly surprised as well. It's like, this is a nice thing to come home to. Thank you, Brookworm, for streaming when you do. Especially when I'm not streaming, because then I actually get to watch your stream. It's fun. But then what else did I do? So the week prior, though, GameStop's Black Fridays went on sale, so I actually picked up something I've been wanting to pick up for a while. A PlayStation VR. Can you see it? Are you seeing this? So it was on sale with like 2 games, and it came with the camera and the Move controllers. And now I'm like, I don't want to be in the world I'm in now. I'll just go into that world. No, I'm kidding. But it's...
Hey, I'm coming to New York in December, maybe. I think we should work this out now. Now I definitely want to do that.
PlayStation VR, great. I unboxed it and reviewed it on our channel, so go check out that video for a more in-depth perspective on it. But I really think it's something special. So I haven't tried the Oculus VR or the HTC Vive, and I know those things are clearly a step above this because they cost more money. I don't know that for sure, but I hear through many people the general consensus is that those are the premium things to buy there. But if you just have a PlayStation 4 and you don't have a high-end computer, I think this is a really solid option for you to do a VR experience at home. And it somehow works in this incredibly tiny room. I have a full VR experience in this room. It's pretty sick. Last night, I streamed for like 6 hours, and I started off playing Tekken. I was just about to shut off because no one was watching. Captain Vidya came through, got me hyped because he's been getting into Tekken as well. So I definitely started playing more Tekken. Then Divine Hailstorm came in and said, "Can you do a VR stream?" And boy, howdy. Did I go to town on VR? I got Super Hot is this really cool game. I don't know if you've seen footage of it, Yvonne.
I have.
So basically the premise of this game is there's these red guys. I think they're actually called those. They're just like red silhouette characters. and they're all trying to kill you. And the whole premise of it is that you have to use the weapons in the environment to kill them. But if you're not moving, time pretty much is frozen, right? But while you are moving, time goes forward just as fast as it would be. So you basically, there's a lot of guns, there's a lot of shurikens, there's a lot of broken bottles to throw. You can punch people, and you feel like you're in the fucking Matrix, and it's pretty cool. I also have Tetris VR, Tetris Effect, which we talked about at length through this podcast. It's even better in VR. And I got this new game just came out on the 20th called, well, it's been on Oculus and Vive for a while, called Beat Saber. Do you know this game?
Yes.
This game is amazing.
That's right up your alley, dude.
This game is so fucking cool. Beat Saber is it's like, if you can imagine the game Dance Dance Revolution. It's a rhythm game where you have to hit certain notes at the beat of the song, right? But Beat Saber is different in that you have two different color lightsabers, and there are blue and red blocks coming at you, and you have to slice them in half with the correct color lightsaber. So I streamed that for a while, and the music is all like upbeat electronic, some dubstep. There's like a rap song in there. There's a weird take on like a country song. It's a pretty good soundtrack, and the only downfall of PlayStation VR is that there's no mods. So if you're getting Oculus or Vive, you have mods for Beat Saber, and people have mapped different songs, like actual mainstream songs, into the game, which is really that much better. But the songs in the game are all super fun. I'm having like the difficulty spike from hard to expert level. You choose the difficulty of the song is incredibly difficult, and it's awesome. You also have to dodge different things coming at you, like blocks of things that you can't cut in half. So that makes it a whole, full body experience. Is pretty fun. So yeah, I'm pretty much complete. Oh, I also got this other game called Astrobot Rescue Mission, also on sale. This game is super cool. I believe it's currently an exclusive for PSVR, just like Tetris Effect. So I guess this is the only upside of, if you're comparing the three headsets. The primary upside to PSVR is exclusives, which may not be exclusive in the long run, but they're exclusive currently. So Astrobot Rescue Mission is a super cool game where you basically it's a platforming game like Mario, and it's super cheery and really bright colors, and that's pretty cool in my opinion. And I always love platformers like Mario. And you control the character. It's this little robot guy with the controller, with just the PlayStation DualShock controller, and it gives you a virtual version of that controller so you can see it. And basically you are the camera of the game, and so you can look around the entire level. It's a smaller, or you're in the level, you feel like a giant, I guess, and the robot's really tiny, and you move him around the level, and you can look around to find different secrets and the platforms. And it's a really cool mechanic actually, and it works really well. The platforming is pretty cool, and you sort of have to change your perspective on how to platform because of your perspective on where this little robot is, because you're not always directly with him. So I think that game's super awesome. And I just, I think there are a lot of new games coming out on PSVR soon. And so I thought it was a pretty decent time to buy in, because it was also on sale. So I am pleasantly surprised and highly suggest.
You've been waiting for a while for that to go on sale.
Yeah,
right?
I have, definitely. So, and I can say I'm very happy with my purchase. And if you've had PlayStation Plus for a while, then they've been giving out VR games to begin with, so that's pretty sweet. So I have some free games there too. So yeah, I have a lot of different things to play on VR now. It's a lot of fun. The only thing is your face gets really sweaty while you do it, especially when you're playing Beat Saber or Super Hot. So it's really hot in this room, and I was like drenched with sweat by the time I was done sweating and streaming. But yeah, that was my week. Pretty much Thanksgiving and VR. Had a fun time. It was a good time. But Yvonne, you know what industry may or may not be having the best of times? Funnily enough, we were just talking about tech, but you told me the tech stock prices are dropping. What do you mean by that?
So right now, kind of some of the things that we've been talking about in terms of the tech industry have been over the past year, like on this podcast and as a general conversation piece, is what is our participation and our, as consumers, liability in the tech industry's co-optation, domination of our interaction, our world, and our political system.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, Facebook and Apple have taken significant hits in the past week or two, especially Facebook, in light of what could be seen as investors being worried about what will happen in the near future. As like the New York Times published an article recently that was like, it was an op-ed on should we quit Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the question is like, what we're seeing as a result of this conversation piece in the tech stock is like, should we be quitting Facebook? Are the investors correctly assuming that Facebook will take a hit in terms of their customer in terms of their user base because of all of these significant developments over the course of 2 years, basically since the election of Donald Trump?
Right.
Well, I want to see from you, hear from you what your perspective on that is.
I mean, I've definitely tailed off in Facebook usage since then, but I was already on my way out, as we graduated college. So that was about 5 years ago for us, and so. Wow, it's been that long.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, so I was already tailing off in my usage. It wasn't providing me much of a service. I think that was just a collective thing in that the way people interacted with social media was a lot different than it was back when it first started. When we first started being cognizant of things like Facebook, and of course we're not the ones that started with Facebook. When Facebook was really starting, we weren't the first generation of people using Facebook, but we were certainly.
I was on it in high school.
Yeah, but
so
the first generation of people using Facebook.
First generation of people using Facebook had to have a college
email, right?
Email.
Right.
And so once it opened up, I was one of, because my sister was on Facebook when it required a college email. Mm-hmm. So I guess she's first national generation, and I'm first open national generation.
All right. I didn't get Facebook until my senior year, if I'm not mistaken, of college. Of high school. And I was forced to do it for some reason. I don't know. I was just in the computer lab and someone just made it for me. So that's what happened for me. I was always resistant of it, but
early high school, late middle school, I
fucking put on a headset and dance for the internet now. But yeah, so yeah, that was funny. But yeah, so just the way people started interacting with it as of lately, posting, I don't know, just look at this guy, let's shit on him, or look at this. It stopped being about, updating people about your lives and more about look at this funny video, look at this thing or whatever. Look at this picture, and read about this. I'm telling you what to do. That sort of mentality. So like you should not. I don't know that, or that's how it appeared to me. And I know a lot of people don't use it in that way, and I'm not blaming everyone, but that sort of seemed to be the general consensus of what people were using Facebook and things like that for. So I've always been just moving out on my way out anyways, and now with, we talked about Cambridge Analytica a long time ago, because it was last year. I guess that's how quickly our news cycle works nowadays, is that Cambridge Analytica is an old story and everyone forgot about that. We now all joke about it, actually. In fact, we joke about Facebook in that, it's like, oh, you're going to lose all your data on Facebook, or they're selling your data. Ha ha ha. Yes, they are. And that's a scary thing.
You are the consumer that they are selling.
And we all make fun of Mark Zuckerberg, or was that his name? Zach, what was I calling him? I forget his name every time, but it's Mark Zuckerberg, right?
Yeah.
And how he's
Tom
a reptile
from
or whatever.
MySpace.
And that is funny, obviously. And that he needed the booster seat, that was hilarious. But we all made fun of him. But that he's the guy who started this website, and he has a vision for it that clearly stock investors in his company don't agree with. So I can totally see why Facebook stock is plummeting. But that's just my opinion on it.
Do you think Apple is connected to that, or is Apple a separate thing based on their release of products?
I think Apple might not be directly connected to Facebook stock plummeting, but I think Apple has been on a downward spiral ever since what's his name? Steve Jobs passed away.
In charge.
Yeah, so I mean, okay, you can say all you want about Apple, but they really did bring personal computing to mainstream media and market it very well. And they also made some innovations in the field. And they also I mean, I'm not saying they invented the computer or anything, or the smartphone, but they certainly put it in a simple package and made it very palatable, and were able to talk to the consumer in a way that that their main competitor, Microsoft, wasn't able to do at the time. So I think that under Steve Jobs, Apple was a really solid company that put out a pretty quality product. It was a premium price, sure, and it didn't do all the things that and still doesn't do all the things that their competitors do, like Android phones, for instance, or the Windows computers can do more things than Apple computers and Apple phones can do. But that being said, people like the simplicity and use it for what they use it for. So there will always be.
I can tell you, in the film industry, the overwhelming majority of people, like film and entertainment, use Mac.
Yes, and so it's useful for very specific industries like the film industry, and of course it does your email, it does your Word documents and things. But even then, it has trouble communicating with some Windows products, which is annoying. Especially in science, I'll tell you that much. It is not the computer of choice for scientists. But I'll have to tell you, so that being said, they came out of the gate under Steve Jobs in the 90s and early 2000s, and then late 2000 2010, I guess. They were doing amazingly, right? And that they've become the brand that they are today after him, in a way that seems like they're I want to say they seem like they're resistant to change their ways. Steve Jobs had a vision for the company, but it doesn't have to be that vision anymore. The industry is definitely changing after he passed away, and so it really they have to adapt, or they're going to get thrown under. They're no longer. They had been the largest, the most selling. They had the majority of the smartphone market for a long time, and they were fluctuating between, I believe it's Samsung and Apple phones. I would assume the Galaxy S 8 and 9 or whatever they are. I think they were fluctuating between those two phones being the market leaders, and then now Huawei has much more, if not the majority of the market, because there's a different market that isn't just America. It's called China, man. They are a huge population over there that loves smartphones. Everyone in Asia loves their smartphones. I will see quite frequently, and this will piss you off, Yvonne, but I know you've seen it too. It's not just Asian people, but really quite frequently, if you go to like a Korean place or a Japanese place in at least New York City, you'll see sometimes people that are definitely from Korea or Japan. They'll be on a date, but both people are just on their phones the whole time. So
it does so piss me off.
Yeah, I know it'll piss you off, and it pisses me off too. It's like, what? I know it's a lunch. I guess it's a lunch break, so it's like, okay, you want to not think about maybe they're not on a date. I don't know. Whatever. That's. Look, there's a person in front of you. Just talk to them, please, or like maybe look up a funny video for them to look at. Interact with them somehow.
There's so much you can do.
But yeah. So that being said, Huawei phones are really popular in Asia and all over the world now. Except you can't buy them in America. So it's the largest market for smartphones is not necessarily in America anymore. And I think Apple, is being an American company, has marketed their phones in the overseas, but they're not marketing them in the way that people want them to be marketed to them anymore. The tastes change over time, and the lower end smartphone market, around the $350 range, is really blowing up right now. There's a lot of smartphones that have competitive technology in them. We go through iterations of smartphones every year now. You see this with Apple all the time. Just because there's a new smartphone out doesn't mean that your old smartphone doesn't do every single thing that smartphone does. So these new iterations, because there's such a high turnover rate, we're able to lower the cost of all these components, and that's why you see these $350 phones doing everything that an iPhone 10 can do, but at half the price. So it's really the competitive free market is not going in Apple's way, I would have to say, in my honest opinion. But that's what I think about Apple. But I don't necessarily think that there's a connection between Facebook and Apple. That was a really long-winded way to answer the question. But that's I mean, there probably is in an indirect way, because I think that you may associate Facebook with Apple products because of aesthetic-wise. I think Facebook has over time chosen to show their website and app in a much more simplistic manner, and Apple tends to do a neat, simplistic OS. So I could see it being done that way. I'm not entirely sure.
I think you're right. The aesthetic has been very much matched. Like the Silicon Valley has
like rounded edges. You know what I'm talking about? Nothing's jagged or anything.
It has really reacted to the way in which Steve Jobs presented the iPhone, right? So after the iPhone came out, there's all those famous like memes or whatever that like every single smartphone changed its shape. Every phone really tries to mimic the iPhone as we go along. But I think the grasp on technology that Apple had in terms of mobile technology really is breaking apart. When you look at where the iPhone is being manufactured, and then perhaps you can look at it, steal some ideas of design, etc., and then improve upon it. And Apple, at some level now, isn't making the most innovative product. They're making slight changes, but it isn't a jump from a flip phone or a BlackBerry to an iPhone anymore.
Definitely not.
And I think that Steve Jobs, his meticulousness when it came to creating a product that was a necessity of innovation, to we're gonna kind of innovate slightly between generations, but like battery life is the same or worse because it's a bigger screen. Like there's we've reached the point in terms of the hardware where maybe Apple isn't the most innovative in the hardware.
And we had a podcast about Apple a couple. You remember we did a podcast about the what was it, like the 10th birthday of the iPhone? No, not 10th. It must have been the 10th birthday or something, or 20th. I don't know how old they are now. Like, are we that old that it's 20? No. But I think it was 2016, so it was 2 years ago that we did it. So it must have been the 10th birthday of the iPhone or something. So we talked about it.
Yeah, that's why it's the XR, the iPhone X. Right?
Well, they skipped 9 for some reason, just like Windows. So
because it came 10 years after, because the generations didn't come out that way.
Yeah, well, maybe someone should have thought of that too, right? That's huge. That's marketing for you, right? So it's like, where's the iPhone 9?
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know.
I think the real takeaway that we have from as Julien for me clipped a bit in the Discord, so I'm not able to converse with him.
Oh, sorry.
For that 30 seconds. Sorry, folks. I think the real takeaway from Apple stock taking a hit is, I think Apple stock is a reflection of the hit back on the hardware that they've put out and like how the sales are rolling, whereas Facebook is really like investors are worried about the user base of Facebook.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Both of them reflect a user base, right? So if the iPhone isn't selling as well as it's predicted to do, that means it's a smaller user base.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
I think one of them is based on hardware, and you can either improve or continue to make shit things, and in the short term look for investors to get small returns and blah blah blah. Or with Facebook, it really is down to core business model. Like Apple changed their business model to be more, let's put out products so that we can get people to buy newer things without being the most innovative company anymore. Facebook is innovative in a different way and continues to be innovative in like data generation, etc., like getting everybody's information as much as possible through Instagram or Facebook or WhatsApp. But I still think that at its core, people are turning away from Facebook for moral reasons, and that might be a more mass migration movement because you can move away from Facebook to other social media platforms. The problem being that people are going, I'm not going to be on Facebook anymore because grandma's on Facebook. I'm going to Instagram.
Yeah, that's one way of doing it.
I guess you're just an idiot then.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see like what is the actual. So right now we're seeing investors are scared of this. What is the actual movement of people? Are people going to actually be able to move away from the social media giant, which is Facebook?
That is a good question. I think we've yet to see. I don't know if people can do that.
By 2100, do you think people will still be on Facebook?
I should hope not, really. But, you know, we have old companies that have been around since the 1900s, so why not? Why not? Why can't Facebook be a, centennial company? Why not? Bicentennial company.
Well, in 2100, do you know what else will be a problem? The economy will be in shambles.
What are you talking about? What is going on?
So for those of you who don't necessarily troll through the garbage that the Trump administration releases on a Friday,
Black Friday,
or Black Friday, or have just been taken up by the sales of products and Black Friday and Cyber Monday coming up today. If you're listening in podcast form on the day we release.
Yeah, turn off your podcast, buy something. What are you doing?
The Trump administration released a report on November, I think, November 23rd or so. Or no, it was the 16th. It might have even been just before the break, and people were just through analysis. But basically, it talks about the fact that the U.S. economy is going to see, as a reflection of global warming, such devastating effects as are greater than what the Great Recession was in 2007. So this is a report that's basically like, if we do nothing and continue on this trending path, we will see disruption of shipping channels, a increase in wildfires and production, like shipping, production, land, all these things will be affected. Rising sea levels will collapse land availability. Increased natural disasters will also disrupt production or land availability. We saw how much... So there were the huge floods in Thailand, which disrupted Western Digital. Like $60 million, I think, in shipping was lost. No, they sustained $199 million in losses, Western Digital, in 2011, based on the extreme flooding in Thailand. That's a real tactile result of global warming.
Also related to the tech industry.
Exactly. And if we look at the wildfires in California that have damaged winery production, or the new wildfires this year that have just devastated homes, and 800 plus people are missing or presumed dead. There is a lot of disruption that's going on just based on these wildfires, which are a result of increased drought and things which are based in part, at least, through the man-made climate change. And the Trump administration is doing its best to hide, throw into a trash can, anything to do with this report.
Right, yeah, we don't typically think of, when we think of a country that's doing well, like America or China or these really economic powerhouses in the world right now, we don't really typically think of what their climate is like at all, actually, anymore. Or at least I don't. Anyways, I don't think of China's or America is a very economically gifted right now because of their natural resources that they have access to very easily through their land. You don't typically think of that type of thing anymore. Obviously that's why people moved to America in the first place, and things like that. Why the British tried to colonize America, because there were a lot of valuable resources there. But if those valuable resources are destroyed because of climate change, then the country can no longer produce things like lumber, for instance. And I assume there's a large lumber industry in California. They have a lot of forests there. But that's like the type of industry type of thing that we're so far removed from nowadays in 2018. So it can be interesting to think about that, the economy is so dependent on what we can harvest from the land. What, like farming, for instance, obviously, how do we make any of our food? Because we have the soil to grow it in. If all the soil is dried out and crap because America turned into a desert because of global warming, then the whole farming industry doesn't exist anymore. So, these are the type of things to think about. A lot of the fruits and veggies that you eat throughout the winter periods are grown in Mexico, usually, I think. In Mexico or California.
A lot of avocados, for instance, avocados throughout like the winter months tend to be a California Mexico endeavor.
Exactly.
And grapefruit, etc. These are a lot of different places where the climate maintains kind of a warmish percent, like 60 to 70 degrees throughout the year. They're still able to maintain a growth period, but with raging wildfires, with drought, with the inability of these people to maintain a workforce, for instance, because all of their homes are burnt up. Crop distribution, agriculture revenue in general, agriculture production in general, could see dramatic falls. They say that by mid-century, according to this report,
So
which is
2050?
issued by 13 federal agencies, that exports and supply chains could be disrupted. Agricultural yields could fall to 1980s levels by mid-century.
Whoa.
Agricultural yields in the 1980s levels could lead to significant losses in terms of revenue and tremendous losses. Maybe not, we would see price increases for sure, because you'd have to balance out, because farmers in general tend to lose money just based on how the agricultural commercial farming system works. That small farmers are gone by mid-century if that's what's happening. Like, unless you're willing to pay $20 for like a kale or broccoli, it's
Don't worry,
ridiculous.
people already do that in New York City. It's, they'll be fine. No, I'm kidding. But that's
So we have increased commercial farming practices just because the mom and pop shops get squeezed out, or it's unaffordable to middle and low income families. And then in general, you could have reserve shortages. So even if we don't have shortages, for instance, in the supermarkets necessarily, the United States government ensures a strategic reserve of grain and other resources that can be held out for longer periods of time. The less the agricultural production, the more you have to dip into those resources in order to ensure that people have food and bread, etc. And if you have resources that go to waste, for instance, because the silos or whatever burn down, and then you can't replace those resources, that's one reason. But also having to tap into those reserve resources because you don't have the just level of production across the country. So this isn't just the most simplistic, like, okay, I'm gonna have to pay $8 for an apple, right? That's not the result of this. The result of this is a really complex knock-on effect that can have a tremendous change in how our society is able to obtain food and feed ourselves. It's an important thing to think about.
Yeah, it's really interesting to know. That is obviously what we're trying to say. It's interesting to know the connection that global warming can have with our economy, the entire global economy, obviously. So it's definitely a part of global warming that we don't ever think about, or climate change, whatever you want to call it, that we don't ever think about because we've never seen, or we haven't really seen a direct impact yet. We see that there was a huge wildfire recently in California, but a lot of American politicians will try to cover it up and blame it on something else, even though it's clearly because of global warming and climate change. What did Trump try to say? It was like campfires or something. Or that's what they're calling. I don't know.
It's his. Every single time there's something that's a big problem, he's like, there are Muslim extremists in the caravan. Oh, it could have been a 300-pound guy at home who was hacking into the Democratic National Party's emails. Blah blah blah.
Tough,
he presents these theories that have no basis in any kind of evidence or humanity. So it's just kind of like, are they really theories, or are they just gibberish that he throws out that his base can, like, it's the least common denominator kind of theories, like the lowest impact or thought-provoking theory that people could be like, Yeah, I could totally see that happening.
Oh well, it's a scary world we live in, and we're all moving forward together. So I think we have to remember that. We all have to help each other out and do the best we can to. And I think that's partially why we started this podcast. We wanted to use, aside from getting the sweet views that we get on YouTube, and all the subscribers, we started this podcast, I think, as a way to discuss important topics that we find important to ourselves, and put another voice out there, hopefully of truth and reason out there in the internet, because there can be a lot of, different tactics by other people to drown out what is really important to know. So I think this was a really great article that you brought up, Yvonne. Thank you for telling us all about it, because I think it's really important.
I'm just mining the New York Times for their content.
That's fine with me. We gotta do our best to kill newspapers out there. Not everyone has access to the New York Times, so and that's a problem, I feel like, because they're, I think, a valuable source of news, at least one source out there that a lot of people don't have access to. So I think if we can at least discuss some of the topics that they bring up every now and then, I think we're doing our part. So
they're a decent newspaper.
I don't read newspapers. Get out of here. Although I still see them on the train every now and then, so they're not completely dead. Let's go, newspapers.
Dude, the crossword, as much as I enjoy doing the crossword on my phone, there's nothing better than doing a crossword in
It's
pen.
true. I used to do that all the time in high school. They got the New York Times for free at my high school. That was pretty sweet.
Me too.
So I was really into the Times then. And so that's why I know how it works. But yeah, and I think I feel like high schools should do that if they don't do that anymore. That's a really cool thing. That was a really cool service my high school provided for me that may have been very little effort on their part, but that really made my day that much better. And more.
But also very cool for the New York Times to supply high schools with newspapers so students can read news for free.
I would assume that was how it was. I don't know exactly how it was done, but I would assume that's how it was done. But yeah. Anyways, go New York Times. Please read the New York Times. And keep up with the news, because there's a lot of things happening all the time. And, Yvonne, our podcast only happens once a week. But that doesn't mean the conversation has to end there. So keep the conversation going in the comment section below. We'd love to talk to you guys further. We also have an email address, gaminghangover@gmail.com, where you can contact us about any inquiry. If you have, maybe a topic that you would like us to discuss, I think that would be pretty cool. I think a topic I wanted to discuss, but I don't have much knowledge on, is the not just the New York Stock Exchange, but just, the stock exchange in general. And how do you get into it? How do you buy stocks? How do you sell stocks? What's the point of buying stocks and selling stocks? Is it like a gambling situation? How does it work? I know a little bit about it, but I'd like to know more. So if you guys have any information on that, tell us. But I think... Tell us if that's something you want us to talk about, and we can be on the lookout for someone who's actually an expert, and maybe we can get them on the podcast. That would be pretty cool. But yeah, I think that would be pretty fun. But Yvonne, we end our podcast every single week in a song in a segment called Hungover Radio. This is where you, the listener or viewer, can send in your music to gaminghangover@gmail.com. Links in the description below. Your song of choice.
We really need a sizzler for this.
Sizzler.
Just a graphic that bam,
yeah, all
hits
right.
everybody.
Well, I'll make one in, what's the app that we use? Fusion Black Magic Fusion. That's how I made those sweet thumbnails. If you want to learn how to do that, there's sweet tutorials online. But so that being said, you can send in your music to gaminghangover@gmail.com, and I will hopefully it's a song that you wrote or produced or play an instrument on, because we'd love to share your music with the community of Hungover. 53 people strong, Yvonne. 53 people. Let's go. Come on, get the number to 100, and I think we're well on our way to beating PewDiePie.
We're golden.
I think
at
so.
100.
Yeah, I would be happy just ending it there. But tell us in the comment section below. How many can you get? How many fake YouTube accounts can you make to subscribe to us? Tell us. But if no one sends in a song, I get to pick one. So I've been super hype on Beat Saber lately. So we're gonna play the song titled Beat Saber, which is in the game. It's super sweet. I hope you guys enjoy the song, and I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. Yvonne, it was a good podcast. Thanks for doing it with me. Haven't talked to you in so long, man.
I know. We're
both busy.
We don't hang out anymore.
Well, yeah, you don't play video games anymore, man. God,
I know.
But anyways, when you come back to streaming, we will advertise your stream. But I don't think you're gonna be streaming tonight. But
no. When I'm down to just working one job a week,
you'll stream.
I'll be more than
it's awesome. All right, we'll catch you guys all next week. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. Goodbye.
Bye.